There's a city in America where you can literally buy a house for $1. Yes, one actual dollar, less than a cup of coffee. And no, it's not a haunted property with 17 disclaimers. It's real. It's happening right now, and nobody's telling you about it. Here's the thing. While most of the country's drowning in six-figure mortgages and rent that cost more than a car payment, there are towns quietly offering homes so cheap it feels illegal. But here's what nobody tells you. There's always a twist. Sometimes it's a town where the ground is literally on fire. Other times it's a lakeside paradise where the property taxes will bankrupt you faster than the crime rate. We're diving into 25 towns where home prices are suspiciously low, and every single one comes with a wait, what moment. Like this video so the algorithm thinks affordable housing exists. Subscribe because this channel is your break glass in case of housing emergency kit. Let's break it down. You can buy a house in Detroit for $1, literally. The city's land bank sells condemned properties for as low as $1,000 through the Own It Now program. Right now, over 2,400 homes. That's 55% of active listings are priced under $100,000. The median sits at $100,000, which in today's market feels like finding a unicorn. Detroit once housed 1.85 million people in 1950. Today, 640,000. That's a 65% population collapse that left entire neighborhoods looking like a post-apocalyptic movie set. But here's the part they don't mention in the real estate ads. Detroit's property tax system runs on something called uncapping. When you buy that cheap house, the taxable value resets to market value. One documented case saw annual taxes jump from $3,500 to $19,680 after purchase. The effective tax rate is 2.83%, more than double the national average. Between 2010 and 2016, Detroit overtaxed homeowners by an estimated $600 million. So yeah, you can buy a house for $1, but the city will charge you $20,000 a year to keep it. Now here's the plot twist. Detroit's actually getting better. 2025 marked the city's first year with fewer than 200 homicides since 1965, a 60-year low. Carjackings dropped 46%. Some neighborhoods are genuinely nice. Jefferson Chalmers, Palmer Woods, Corktown. These areas have tight-knit communities and beautiful historic homes. Detroit's not for everyone, but if you're bold, scrappy, or just really hate paying California rent, it might be your hustle capital. Just bring a very good accountant. And if you thought Detroit's tax system was wild, wait until you hear about the city where the water crisis made national news for poisoning children. Median home price, $65,000. That's not a typo. Flint is literally the cheapest city in America. Price per square foot runs $52,000 to $61,000. Also rock bottom nationally. Cost of living sits 19% below average, with housing costs 64.9% below national figures. Wallet Hub named it the #1 most affordable city for home buyers in 2024. You know why it's this cheap. The water crisis. From 2014 to 2019, lead contamination exposed 100,000 residents to poison. 12 people died from Legionnaire's disease. An estimated 9,000 children suffered lead poisoning. 1 in 5 residents met criteria for clinical depression. 1 in 4 for PTSD. As of July 2025, Flint finally completed replacing 28,000 pipes. The water has met federal safety standards for over 7 years, but trust is destroyed. Many residents still refuse to drink tap water despite official assurances. Criminal prosecutions of officials resulted in 0 convictions, deepening public cynicism. The population dropped from 196,140 at its 1960 peak to 79,135 today, a 60% decline. But here's the thing nobody talks about. Some parts of Flint are becoming weirdly cool. Artists, developers, and yes, actual hipsters are moving into renovated buildings downtown. There's a Flint mural tour and a surprisingly good coffee scene. You can snag a whole house for less than a Tesla down payment. Flint's the only place I've ever seen a coffee shop, a boarded up liquor store, and a bail bonds billboard all on the same street. Flint's not for the soft, but if you're tough, like cheap property, and don't mind explaining to your relatives that yes, the water is fine now, it's a gold mine in disguise. Now, if Flint's water crisis scared you, buckle up. The next city was literally named the most affordable major city in America by the experts. Toledo isn't just affordable. It's been named the #1 housing market for 2024 by Realtor.com. Typical home value, $190,669, second lowest among the 100 largest metros. Typical rent, $1,242 a month, fourth lowest nationally. But here's what really matters. The home affordability ratio, home price divided by median income, sits at 3.1 times. That's tied for the lowest in America with Pittsburgh. The national average is 4.8 times. Property taxes run 19% below average. Homeowners insurance averages just $837 a year. Toledo functions as the glass city with historic glass manufacturing, hosts the 5th busiest port on the Great Lakes, and features the University of Toledo. Average commute, just 17.75 minutes. There's a world-class zoo, a minor league hockey team, and neighbors who will help you shovel snow and then offer you chili. But here's the catch. Violent crime rate hits 1.10%. Property crime 2.99%. Elevated but not extreme. Poverty rate reaches 23% versus 11% nationally. Average salary runs 13% below the national average. And the roads. Potholes so deep they have their own zip codes. Toledo drivers treat yellow lights as challenges, not suggestions. The weather is classic Midwest chaos. It snows when the forecast says sun, rains during parades, and summer is just mosquito season with humidity so thick you can chew it. But you'll spend less on housing than most people spend on gym memberships. Toledo's impressive, but if you want a city that's actually experiencing a comeback, the next place might surprise you. Median sale price, $125,000 in December 2025, with 36% of listings, 667 homes, priced under $100,000. Cost of living runs 44.6% below national average by some measures. And here's the kicker. Cleveland led the nation in home price appreciation in March 2025 at 10.3% year over year. This window is closing fast. Homicides dropped from 192 in 2020 to 104, 110 in 2024, with another 30% decline in early 2025. Progress is real, but violent crime still sits 336% above the national average, and Cleveland ranks in the bottom 10% nationally for safety. So what's the appeal? World-class Cleveland Clinic, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Lake Erie waterfront, suburbs like Lakewood and Parma consistently rank among Rust Belt revival success stories. A Cleveland Foundation executive summed it up perfectly. The best thing we have to offer is an incredibly high quality of life that is exceptionally affordable. World-class big city amenities, arts and culture, food, music, history, green space, and it's simply much more affordable. Cleveland has more bridges than Venice and probably more potholes than the moon. Merging here is a form of telepathy. There are no blinkers, only vibes. But if you want big city amenities without big city prices, and you're okay with winter that makes you question your life choices, Cleveland might be your move. Just know that prices are rising fast, so this deal won't last forever. Cleveland's comeback is real, but if you want truly rock bottom prices with maximum risk, the next city takes it to another level. Median sale price, $80,000 in September 2025, down 33.3% year over year in a volatile market. But here's the wildness. Gary's Dollar Home program sells abandoned properties for literally $1 if you invest $20,000 to $30,000 in rehabilitation and commit to living there for 5 years. Approximately 7,000 to 10,000 buildings stand abandoned. Gary housed 178 to 320 people at its 1960 peak as Indiana's second largest city. Today, 67,199, a 63% decline. The city lost 34% of its population just since 2000. Gary earned the nickname Murder Capital of America in the early 1990s, and it's still rough. Total crime rate, 3,726 per 100,000, 76% above the national average. Violent crime, 898 per 100,000, 150% above average. 1 in 27 people becomes a crime victim annually. Crime actually rose 21% from 2023 to 2024. But there are signs of life. Nippon Steel pledged a $3.1 billion investment in Gary Works, the largest since the city's founding in 1906. A Hard Rock casino development is underway. The city won rights to build a $100 million county convention center. Gary is 25 miles from Chicago via the South Shore train, theoretically commutable. And hey, it's the birthplace of Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. Movies from Transformers to Nightmare on Elm Street have used its photogenic ruins as backdrops. Just, bring security, and maybe a lawyer, and definitely a tetanus shot. Gary's the definition of high risk, high reward. But if Midwest winters aren't your thing, let's head south to where homes are cheap and the heat is free. Median home value, $185,120 to $191,706. The lowest typical home value among all 100 largest metros. Average rent, $998 a month. Overall cost of living runs 21% to 24% below the national average, with housing 40% to 45% cheaper. CNBC and Realtor.com jointly named McAllen the #1 U.S. city for lowest cost of living in October 2024. But here's the paradox that'll make your head spin. That same metro area simultaneously ranks as America's poorest. Some 37.7% of households live below the poverty line, the highest of any metro area in the nation. Child poverty hits 42.2%. Per capita income, just $15,984 a year, roughly half the national average. Now, here's what defies all expectations. FBI 2024 data shows McAllen's murder rate at 2.7 per 100,000. These border towns are statistically safer than Chicago, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. All those cable news panic montages about dangerous border towns, turns out they're safer than most major cities. The McAllen Metro is projected to lead Texas in job creation at 2.19% annual growth. UT Rio Grande Valley continues expanding, including its medical school. Every winter, 100,000 winter Texans arrive October through April, temporarily swelling the population. McAllen maintains a distinctly bicultural character. One local described it perfectly. It's hard to tell where Mexico ends and Texas begins. Spanish fluency isn't optional. It's essential for daily life. You'll save money. You'll sweat through 7 shirts before noon, and you'll probably learn more Spanish in 6 months than you did in 4 years of high school. McAllen's the cheapest, but if you want even more Texas border vibes, the next town takes affordable to the extreme. Median home price, $155,614 to $174,079. Average rent, $695 to $953 a month. Cost of living index, 77. That's 23% below the national average, making it one of the cheapest cities of any significant size in America. Housing runs 35% to 41.5% below national average. Healthcare 21% to 22% cheaper. Harlingen sits in the tropical playground of Texas with 257 days of sunshine, but climate projections are alarming. The area expects a 257% increase in days over 110 degrees by 2055. Flood risk, 49%. Wildfire risk, 51%. Hurricane wind risk, extreme. Residents on niche.com paint a mixed picture. One says, "My overall experience in Harlingen has been very positive, friendly, affordable, and conveniently located near South Padre Island, Brownsville, and McAllen." Another notes, Harlingen is a quiet town perfect for those looking to retire. However, for those looking for a lively city, Harlingen is not it. A younger resident was more blunt. "My experience here so far is quite dull and tedious, but the friends I've made along the way keep me going in this otherwise backwards town." Unemployment sits at 4.94%. Median income 22.3% below national average. High school dropout rates hit 40% versus 23% statewide, and utilities cost 25% to 27% more than average. Air conditioning bills in subtropical heat aren't cheap. Harlingen is where you go when you want warmth, affordability, and absolutely zero excitement. Think of it as retirement practice, even if you're only 30. Harlingen's sleepy, but the next border town made international headlines for all the wrong reasons. Median home price, $129,900 to $146,900, 49% cheaper than San Antonio. Median rent, $632 to $837 a month. Cost of living runs 12% to 18% below the national average, but unemployment hits 8.56%, nearly double the national average. Limited job diversity. Government, retail, and border trade dominate. From 2023 to 2025, Eagle Pass became the epicenter of Texas Governor Greg Abbott Abbott's Operation Lone Star. The state built an 80-acre military base housing 2,000-plus National Guard troops. In January 2024, Texas seized control of 47-acre Shelby Park, sparking a constitutional crisis. The park reopened in April 2025 after border crossings plummeted 66%. The human toll is real. The city applied for mental health grants after firefighters became traumatized from repeatedly pulling dead migrants from the Rio Grande. One resident described the area as feeling like a war zone, while others appreciated the enhanced security. Local reviews are telling, not many places to go and have fun. Contractors cannot be trusted. Spanish is essential. Eagle Pass is affordable. It's also complicated, politically charged, and emotionally heavy. If you can handle that, the cost of living is unbeatable. If you can't, keep watching because there are 17 more towns on this list, and some of them are way less intense. Speaking of intense, the next Texas border town literally has rockets launching in its backyard. Median home price, $152,319 to $255,000. Average rent, $877 to $1,038 a month. Cost of living, 23% below the national average. Murder rate, 2.1 per 100,000, less than half the national average. Elon Musk relocated SpaceX headquarters from California to Starbase in 2024. Economic impact, $13 billion over 2 years, supporting 24,000 direct and indirect jobs. In May 2025, voters approved incorporating the SpaceX facility area as an actual city named Starbase. The FAA approved 25 launches per year. Each rocket launch draws 20,000 plus visitors. But here's the contradiction. Despite SpaceX billions, 34% of households live below the poverty line, second highest in the nation. The region has the third highest uninsured rate in America and elevated rates of diabetes, obesity, and cervical cancer. One local economist captured it perfectly. Think of somebody in extreme poverty watching a rocket go up from Brownsville. Extreme hurricane risk affects 99% of properties. Extreme heat risk hits 96% of properties. SpaceX operations cause road and beach closures, cyanide debris, noise, and power outages. Brownsville is where space-age technology meets third-world poverty. It's fascinating, affordable, and deeply unequal. If you can make peace with that, you can watch rockets launch from your backyard for less than rent in Brooklyn. Texas has cheap border towns, but if you want truly dirt cheap prices, we need to head back to the Midwest, where towns gave up trying decades ago. Median home value, $92,200 to $95,976, 45% to 49% below the national average. Average rent, $655 to $712 a month, 53% to 56% below national. Cost of living index, 72.9 to 79.1, that's 20% to 27% below average. Macon County has the second lowest percentage of income needed to buy a home in the entire United States. So why is it this cheap? Decatur has one of the highest crime rates in America, a 1 in 31 chance of becoming a victim. Unemployment runs 7.58% versus 4.5% nationally. Population has been declining steadily, and then there's the smell. Archer Daniels Midland operates massive soybean and corn processing plants that create a distinctive, pervasive odor throughout the city. Residents openly discuss it. It's not subtle, but murders dropped from an all-time high of 16 to just 5 in 2024. The community has Scoville Zoo, Lake Decatur for fishing and boating, Millikan University, and an active downtown with festivals. Decatur drivers treat stop signs like polite suggestions. I saw a guy roll through a four-way with a coffee in one hand and a chicken biscuit in the other, like he was auditioning for a farm-to-table NASCAR league. Also, the weather is either too humid to function or so windy you're chasing your garbage can into Indiana. Decatur isn't trying to impress you, it's just existing proudly. If you're a remote worker seeking rock-bottom costs and you don't mind industrial smells, this might be your weird paradise. Decatur smells, but the next Illinois town is even cheaper and even more forgotten. Median home price, $64,900 to $76,628. Homes under $50,000 actually exist in this market. Average rent, $893 a month. Cost of living runs 17% to 29% below the national average, with housing 44% to 51% cheaper. Median household income, $37,328 to $44,039, the lowest in Illinois. Over 25% of residents live below the poverty line. Nearly 47% 57% of households fall below median income. Rental vacancy runs 12%, indicating oversupply and low demand. Homes sit on the market an average of 143 days, but Danville sits just over the Indiana border near Champaign-Urbana, home to the University of Illinois. Lake Vermilion offers recreation. The Vermilion County Museum includes a recreated coal mine and 1900s schoolroom. Danville is what happens when a town gives up trying but forgets to officially close. If you want housing so cheap it feels like a glitch in the matrix and you're okay with zero local opportunities, Danville is waiting. Patiently, very patiently, Danville gave up, but the next Indiana town is still trying and failing to keep its own college graduate. Median home value, 122,139 to 124,000, 72% below national. Average rent, 746 to 953 a month, 52% below national. The market is surprisingly competitive. Homes sell in just 12 to 16 days. Sociologists studied Muncie in the 1920s and 1930s as Middletown, supposedly the most typical American city. The Ball Corporation, those glass jars, was founded here. Ball State University carries the family name. Population fell from 70,085 in 2010 to around 64,739 today and continues dropping. GM closed its manual transmissions plant in 2006. PepsiCo shuttered a distribution center in 2023. North American Stamping Group is closing. The Muncie Mall was sold to Wells Fargo. Despite Ball State University enrolling 21,500 students, only 32.2% of working adults in Muncie hold college degrees. The city literally cannot retain its own graduates. Muncie is proof that you can have a major university, historic significance, and rock-bottom housing prices and still lose population every single year. It's like watching a town slowly decide it's had enough. A $35 million READY grant is funding revitalization, but whether that changes the trajectory remains to be seen. Muncie can't keep people, but the next Oklahoma town has a different problem. The wind keeps trying to steal them. Median home price, $151,111 to $208,000, up 14.6% year over year. Average rent, $686 to $1,067 a month, 32% below national. Cost of living runs 8% to 11% below average. Unlike most towns on this list, Enid has low unemployment at 3.44% thanks to Vance Air Force Base, which provides a permanent military presence and economic anchor. Major employers include Tyson Foods and Integrias Bass Baptist Health Center, but Enid sits squarely in Tornado Alley. 98% of properties face major wind tornado risk. 100% face extreme heat risk. Projections show 19 days above 108 degrees within 30 years. One Redditor said it perfectly. Living in Enid is like being in a country song minus the romance plus the windburn. You save a ton on housing, but you also save on entertainment because there isn't much nightlife. Think high school football and a Walmart run. Enid's weather is either where's my hoodie or am I being punished? That Oklahoma wind will slap your soul and take your trash can with it. Also, every local coffee shop closes at like 3 p.m. What if I want anxiety after lunch? You end up at a gas station deciding between a 12-hour-old hot dog or a cappuccino that tastes like sadness. Be honest, could you survive in a town where the wind has an attitude and Starbucks is 40 minutes away? Enid's wind is aggressive, but the next Michigan town has a different problem. Nobody has a job. Median home value, $101,820, 54% to 63% below national. Median rent, $638 a month. Cost of living, 16% to 18% below average. But unemployment hits 10.42%, one of the highest rates on this list. Median household income, $38,014 to $49,430, 31% below national. The population continues declining. Bay City sits on Saginaw Bay, Lake Huron, with a genuine waterfront location. Downtown is revitalized with new shops and restaurants. The Bay City Fireworks Festival every July draws regional crowds. State parks and rail trails offer outdoor recreation, but Michigan winters mean utilities cost significantly more than average. And the roads, potholes big enough to swallow an entire Subaru. Driving here feels like a Mario Kart track, but with more swerving and less fun music. Bay City has this magical ability to snow in April and thunderstorm in January, all while your neighbor's still barbecuing like nothing's happening. happening. Honestly, I'm convinced Bay City has 2 seasons: construction and hope. Oh, and fun fact, Bay City is Madonna's hometown. Yep, even the Queen of Pop got her start somewhere with frozen sidewalks and bargain real estate. Hey, at least in Bay City, your coffee shop stays open past 3:30 p.m. Looking at you, Enid. Bay City has unemployment issues, but at least it's not literally on fire like the next place. This isn't just a cheap town, it's an apocalypse town. Population 5. Yes, 5 actual human beings who were granted the right to stay until death via a 2013 agreement. In May 1962, firefighters set the local landfill ablaze for cleanup. The fire spread into abandoned coal mines beneath the town. 63 years later, it still burns and will continue burning for another 250 plus years. All real estate was condemned via eminent domain in 1992. The zip code was discontinued in 2002. Only about 6 houses remain standing. The famous Graffiti Highway, abandoned Route 61, was covered with dirt in April 2020 to discourage tourists. The fire burns at depths up to 300 feet at temperatures reaching 1,350 degrees. Ground surface temperatures exceed 900 degrees in spots, hot enough to buckle asphalt. Toxic gases including carbon monoxide seep through fissures. Sinkholes open without warning. Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection officially discourages visitation under its Stay Out, Stay Alive program. Centralia inspired the Silent Hill video game and film. The eerie fog and ash-covered atmosphere directly influenced that horror franchise. You can't live in Centralia. You can't buy property in Centralia, but it deserves a spot on this list because it's the ultimate cautionary tale. Sometimes places are cheap because they're literally uninhabitable. Centralia's on fire, but the next Oklahoma town is toxic in a completely different way. Population 0. Picher officially dissolved on November 26, 2013. Picher produced over $20 billion in ore from 1917 to 1947, supplying more than 50% of lead used in World War I bullets. When mining ended in 1967, it left behind 14,000 abandoned mine shafts, 70 million tons of tailings, and 36 million tons of contaminated sludge. A 1994 study found 34% of children suffered from lead poisoning. By the 1990s, 63% of children had elevated blood lead levels. The miscarriage rate was 24%, more than double the national average. Children unknowingly played on toxic chat piles and swam in contaminated water holes, coming home with chemical burns mistaken for sunburns. On May 10, 2008, an EF4 tornado struck Picher, killing 6 people and destroying over 100 homes. The already unstable ground couldn't support rebuilding. An Army Corps study had determined 86% of buildings were at collapse risk from underground mine voids. Former residents have held Christmas parades in the empty town since 2015. The last holdout, Gary Linderman, vowed to stay until the bitter end, but he died in June 2015. Picher is where the American dream went to die, slowly, poisoned, and then blown away by a tornado. It's not on the market, it's a memorial. Picher poisoned its own children, but the next Illinois town killed itself through racism and hate. Cairo, pronounced Cairo, sits at the confluence of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers, once among America's most strategic locations. It was a booming steamboat port, railroad hub, and ferry center. Then came severe racial violence in the 1960s-70s, including the formation of white militias, white hats, that terrorized black residents. The town experienced 142 consecutive nights of gunfire in 1970. Economic boycotts destroyed businesses. Transportation became obsolete when bridges replaced ferries. Population from 15,203 at its 1920 peak to approximately 1,506 today, an 89% decline across 8 consecutive census reports. In 2023, Cairo opened its first grocery store since 2015. Head Start preschool programs closed in 2024. More than 1/3 of residents live below the poverty line. Buildings can't be demolished because the city lacks funds. Many properties have no clear ownership. Cairo appears in Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn as Jim and Huck's destination. It features prominently in Neil Gaiman's American Gods. YouTube has repackaged Cairo as a ghost town for urban explorers. Cairo isn't cheap because of economics. It's cheap because a community tore itself apart and never recovered. Some wounds don't heal. Some towns don't come back. Cairo destroyed itself, but the next West Virginia town is trying to hold on with everything it's got. Median home value, $117,561 to $134,350, 49% below national. Median rent, $548 to $750 a month. Cost of living runs 22% to 24% cheaper than average. Surprisingly, Weirton is rated the safest city in West Virginia with just 60 violent crimes per 100,000. Weirton Steel was once West Virginia's largest private employer with 12,000 plus workers. In 1984, employees bought the mill through the nation's largest employee stock ownership program. Despite this effort, the company filed bankruptcy in 2003. By 2016, only 800 workers remained. In March 2024, the basic oxygen plant was imploded, an emotional event for the community. One resident described it perfectly. The brick houses are super charming and well built. The town is on the move. Lots of family-friendly activities, a gorgeous country club, the best golfing in the greater Pittsburgh area. But another noted, while some folks here are pleasant, there's open intolerance towards people of different races, which is very upsetting. Weirton is 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. The main hangout spot for teenagers is the Sheetz parking lot. It's not an exciting place to be a kid. Weirton is where GPS gets confused and tells you to turn left into 1947. I saw 3 barbershops, 2 bowling alleys, and not a single Starbucks. But the houses are cheap, the people are friendly, mostly, and it's weirdly charming if you're into that nostalgic small-town America vibe. Weirton's holding on by a thread, but the next New York town is actually thriving and affordable. Median home price, $159 to $250. Realtor.com designated Cortland the most affordable small town in America, located 35 minutes from Ithaca, Cornell University area, 45 minutes from Syracuse. SUNY Cortland provides college town stability. The southeastern gateway to the Finger Lakes offers beautiful fall foliage and wine country access. Main Street has what locals describe as Hallmark movie-worthy charm. The annual Pumpkin Festival draws regional visitors. The trade-off, college town economy limits some opportunities. Long, cold winters with significant snow, but this is one of the rare towns on this list that's genuinely nice. Not nice if you ignore the crime rate, nice. Actually nice. Cortland made the list because it's affordable and functional. That's rarer than you'd think. Cortland works, which is shocking. But if you prefer the South, the next Mississippi town actually has an economy. Median home price, around $170,000. Cost of living index, 82.7, 17.3% below national, the lowest in Mississippi. Unlike most Mississippi towns, Tupelo has genuine economic activity. North Mississippi Health Services provides healthcare jobs. The Tupelo furniture market maintains manufacturing tradition, and Toyota supplier networks offer industrial employment. Elvis Presley was born here in a 2-room shotgun shack that's now a museum. Tupelo is surprisingly sophisticated for its size. It's one of the few southern towns on this list that's cheap because Mississippi is cheap, not because something went horribly wrong. Tupelo's functional, but the next New Mexico town is downright charming, if you can handle the confusion. Median home price, around $130,000 to $150,000. Cost of living, 18% to 20% below national average. This Las Vegas has absolutely nothing to do with gambling or Nevada. Located in northern New Mexico's high desert, it contains one of the largest collections of Victorian architecture in the American West. Over 900 historic buildings. New Mexico Highlands University provides jobs and cultural events. Tree-lined streets feel like stepping back in time. 4 distinct seasons at high elevation mean mild winters and warm, not brutal summers. Las Vegas, New Mexico is what happens when a town accidentally preserves itself by being too far from everywhere else to get destroyed. If you like history, quiet, and explaining to everyone that no, not that Las Vegas, this might be your spot. New Mexico's charming, but Tennessee's mountain town might be even better. Median home price, $230,000. Cost of living, 24.5% below national average. Unlike many cheap towns, Greeneville has genuine amenities typically found in larger cities, thanks largely to philanthropist Scott Niswonger, whose investments funded the Niswonger Performing Arts Center. Andrew Johnson's historic site draws history buffs. Margaret Falls and surrounding Appalachian foothills offer natural beauty. Tusculum University, local healthcare, and manufacturing provide actual jobs. Greeneville is one of those towns where you wonder why more people don't know about it. Then you realize, if everyone knew about it, it wouldn't be this affordable. Enjoy it while it lasts. Tennessee's mountains are beautiful, but Arizona's desert border town is where the weird people thrive. Median home price, around $200,000 to $250,000. Cost of living, 15% below national average. This former copper mining town, elevation 5,300 feet, has become a haven for artists, writers, retirees, and people seeking alternative lifestyles. It's explicitly LGBT friendly and attracts remote workers drawn to quirky historic architecture and year-round mild weather. Population around 5,000 means very limited local employment. You need remote work or retirement income to make it work. Bisbee is where weird people go to feel normal. If that sounds appealing, you've found your tribe. Bisbee's bohemian, but the next city is a full-blown success story that nobody saw coming. Median home price, around $175,000. Cost of living, nearly 10% below the national average. Average rent, $150 for a 2-bedroom. Home affordability ratio, 3.1 times income. Tied for the lowest in America with Toledo. Pittsburgh went from Smokestack USA to hosting Google, Uber, and Duolingo. But despite the glow-up, the cost of living somehow never got the memo. Big-time sports teams, gorgeous parks, world-class universities. Crime is moderate but varies block to block, and then there's the weird weather. Rain, fog, snow, and sun often in the same afternoon. Pittsburgh drivers, merging here is a form of telepathy. There are no blinkers, only vibes. Add in potholes that could swallow a compact car, and you're basically in Mario Kart Rust Belt Edition. But this is one of the few US cities where you can afford to live and have money left over to furnish your home. Pittsburgh has more bridges than Venice, and probably more potholes than the moon. But the skyline looks like a postcard and rents like it's 2009. Pittsburgh's the success story, but honestly, there's no single best cheap town, which brings us to number 1. Median home price, around $180,000 to $195,000. Average rent, $850 to $950 a month. Cost of living, 14% below national average. Here's what makes Decatur different from every other town on this list. It actually works. Decatur sits on the Tennessee River in northern Alabama with a population around 57,000. Major employers include United Launch Alliance, Builds Rockets, 3M, Pilgrim's Pride, and Nucor Steel. Unemployment runs just 2.9%, one of the lowest on this entire list. The job market is genuinely stable. Point Mallard Park offers beaches, a wave pool, an ice rink, and a championship golf course. The historic district downtown features the old state bank built in 1833. Cook's Natural Science Museum has thousands of specimens. The Princess Theater hosts live performances. You've got actual amenities here, not just a Dollar General and broken dreams. Crime rates run below state averages. The school system is decent. Housing inventory is healthy. You're not competing with cash buyers and investment firms. But here's the catch that makes it number 1. Decatur is aggressively normal. There's no glamour here. No trendy coffee shops where people pretend to work on screenplays. No artsy warehouse district being gentrified. It's just a functional southern town where people work in manufacturing, raise families, go to church, and live remarkably affordable lives. Summer heat and humidity hit hard. This is Alabama. Tornado risk is real. The nightlife peaks at Applebee's. But you can buy an actual house, have an actual job, send your kids to actual schools, and still have money left over at the end of the month. Decatur represents what most of America used to be: boring, affordable, and functional. It made number 1 because it's the only town on this list where cheap doesn't come with a horror story attached. No water crisis, no murder capital status, no underground fires, no economic collapse. Just affordable living in a place that quietly works. And in 2025, that might be the rarest thing in America.